Hot tips, George. I know that you're quite passionate around the first topic, and we're going to talk about valuations. I'm going to let you have the stage here because I know that this is a hot topic that we really speak about day in and day out, no doubt. There is significant variances with major lenders, certain valuers. Over to you.
Like your borrowing capacity, valuations are subjective. It's based on that valuer who works for the bank or on behalf of the bank. But what I've seen over the years is that, if you try and value your home, for example, and you go to 5 different banks, you could easily get 5 different results. Where it becomes crucial when you're trying to get enough equity out, maybe not against your home, but let's say an investment property, when you're trying to get enough equity out to duplicate and your current bank says no, it's not a no. It's hold 5, guys. Because what we're going to go off and do is, and what I regularly do is, I'll go and order 5, 6, 7 valuations with different banks. What we're trying to achieve there is the maximum equity release, or the highest valuation possible. It's astounding to see the results. Recently we had a valuation on a home where the current lender valued the property at $750, and I think 6 other valuations were higher, all spreading by about $100,000.
Wow.
So what it meant was that client didn't have to borrow using a 90% loan. It meant that for the new property, they could get an 80% loan. It was a lot cheaper for them. So that's the power of being able to use, a broker. The valuations are free. We're not paying for them. You guys don't have to pay for them. But we've got the benefit of using the tools that we have to try and maximise your borrowing capacity. And the key part is obviously the valuation.
Quite noticeable also, especially the last 12 to 24 months, how much impact the equity positions have evolved, especially with the growth around certain parts of Australia where once upon a time you borrowed at 80% and obviously holding on to that property for 3, 4, 5 years, and all of a sudden now we're finding that the equity positions are so much more stronger, and it's just a crying shame if you're not leveraging and taking that opportunity to reborrow against ideally your investment portfolio, right?
Absolutely. I've got to add a comment in there. Do you know, when rates started increasing and we were doing valuations, you could see how all the valuers are being nervous because they didn't know where things were going. But in hindsight, where did they go? Then he went one direction, all values, went up. It's just astonishing to think back, how the valuers were performing back then. But again, they're trying to de-risk the situation for the bank. So they're always going to be, 5 or 10% more conservative than what the, open market's going to value your property at.
Well, whilst we're on the trajectory of talking up, let's talk about the interest rates that have gone up, 13, 14 times in consecutive months and so forth. So we've obviously seen a little bit of a hold the last 3, 4 months where it's starting to cool down. How do you see it at the moment?
Oh, well, interest rates, I've lost count of how many times they've gone up. I just sort of used the rough amount of 4% that they've gone up by, but I think it's a bit more than that. I think it's 4.25%. But, interest rates, they're always a moving target. I think it's an important part in our property portfolio because, it's the biggest cost to holding the property. With interest rates, you're never going to get a call from the bank to say, hey, Mr. Wizard, you're doing a great job. You've made your repayments on time for the last, 10 years. They'll never do that. So, it's important to get on the front foot, to give them a call or come through us and we'll try and hit them up for a rate discount. Again, if the bank isn't giving you what you want and that's a competitive rate and you qualify elsewhere, we're going to pack you up and we're going to take you somewhere else.
We've seen so many positive results for those who have had the willingness to pick up the phone, put the pressure on, and really just ask the question. Because if you're not asking the question, you're not getting the outcome that you're looking for. So invest that time to put pressure on your banks, to even just do a simple rate review. Whatever benefit that you do get is obviously a serious win moving forward.
Yeah, I guess in summary with interest rates, if you're driving down the street, and I've done it, I've seen a 6% interest rate. I'm thinking, wow, that's an excellent rate. So I've got to concentrate on the road. When they put rates out there like that, they're trying to hit a target market. It's mainly at that lower end. But what's important is, what rate is relevant to you. There's so many different rates now, but what's applicable to you and how they will apply the rate will be based on a few different criteria. Number one, they base the rate on owner-occupied versus investment. They base it on interest only versus principal interest. And then thirdly, some banks will base the rate off a tier. So the higher the LVR, the higher the rate. And the lower the LVR, the lower the rate. So what we do is when we do a rate review with some of the banks, we go off and do a bank valuation with the lender that you're with, and we show the bank that no longer are they at 80%, you could be at 60%. So what that does to the bank is it means lower risk. Lower risk, hopefully get you a cheaper rate.
Great. Let's close off with the topic around willingness, mindset, and the ability to look outside the banks that they've played ball with for so many years, right? It's a common theme where emotion does play a part. What are the key elements to changing that mindset, George? And I suppose then having the courage and having the willingness to push forward and make structural changes that I suppose are foreign to a lot of our investors.
I think you definitely need to look outside the box. I think, as I mentioned, the bank, if they're not giving you what you want, and that's either interest rate or the equity to be able to duplicate, we pack up and go elsewhere. We're not loyal to the banks, and neither should you. The average life of a loan these days is roughly 3.5 to 4 years. And I think some of them are even lower than that. Some people who jump from bank to bank, it's okay to do that. However, each time you apply for finance, it does impact on your credit score. But again, if you don't ask, you don't receive. So I think the mindset should be that, if they're not competitive, then you should consider always to possibly move on.
Exercise the option to get the maximum. Fair to say?
100%.
Great. All right, guys. Thanks so much for your time. Hopefully it's been a entertaining and knowledgeable little segment for you. We look forward to obviously carrying through different topics into the future, and no doubt looking forward to your feedback for any sort of questions that we may be able to help you with. Don't hesitate. Obviously, George, based out of our New South Wales office. I'm based in sunny Melbourne. So wherever we can assist, we're always here to help. Thanks for your time. See you next time.